What's good?
Yo, what the deal, yo?
Give me a second here. I'm trying to switch over to my other camera. Give me two
Okay.
seconds. I'm going to try one more thing. If it doesn't work, then whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get started. Give me one. All right, let me take you off the stage real quick, too. All right. All right. Fuck it. I'm just going to use a shitty camera. All right.
All right.
What's going on, my man?
Everything's good, man. Just just doing a lot, man. Doing a lot. Gotta be in the city tonight for some dinner, which is cool. But I'm like in the middle of like, yeah, it's like so. It's actually it's the United States' oldest Italian restaurant. One of my clients taking us and the four trainers out. Like Abraham Lincoln used to go there. It's like a jewelry place on the top floor. It's like a suit and tie, like a jacket kind of thing. Middle is like a lounge bar, great food, and then the bottom's like a shooting range.
Okay. Oh,
so like jewelry, alcohol, and guns. Like what can possibly go wrong? Man, but no, looking forward to it. And then good news on my end is the sellers accepted the terms of our contract, so we're just kind of going through that right now, and hopefully I'll be closing in say 60 to 90 days, and that's another asset. Just trying to deal with a lot of like lawyers and stuff like that right now, just juggling everything, and plus all the millions of other things I got going on. But all good. I like controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos is where it's at, bro.
Yeah, buddy.
I don't think if anybody happens to be watching this, I don't know how I did it, but I screwed up the live broadcast.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, right. What it is. I don't know how I got my phone to act as a second camera. And that's where I did a bunch of my other clips. It went so much smoother. Camera came out better, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But it just kind of like, I plugged it. It worked.
Yeah.
And it didn't work this time. And I was like, you know what? I know I got you for a limited time today. And there's some cool things I want to get into. So I was like, fuck it. I'll just go with the bad video because I've got so much bad video. But I'm starting to figure it out where I've got the video now running through the laptop, but now I've got a nicer right. Anyway, so but speaking of the lawyers, I did want to get on this because I know you're a big, huge political guy.
Yeah,
huge. I know you were campaigning massively.
I slept outside for 3 days to make sure I get my vote in.
I know you did. Yeah. You left the country. You're like the guy who goes to Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know. I gotta help starving children. I can't. I don't know. But you know what, man? I did want to get into this. I posted this one as this Trump the first holistic president, and I talked to you real quick before because I thought it really a simple subject that can go down a deep rabbit hole is water, right? So I was like, what's a cool topic? So today we'll talk about a little bit is water, but as we're talking about it, what I kind of really wanted to like catch everybody, not to do too much clickbait, but this whole negativity with Trump is, I've always been a registered independent. I've been more involved in politics. I do believe in voting in the structure, like I do have those beliefs in that. So when I looked at this, I have a huge different grouping of people on this Instagram. I have people that are from a holistic world and they're very leftist, you know what I mean? Like, and then I have people that are from my financial world, right? And even the MMA world, and they're very, what you call them, right? So it's like I did this little post thing because I was saying to people, like, listen, like if you really like start digging into the depth of politics, like you have to give this guy credit for the fact that he took on a bunch of people that were critics of his, people that are kind of outside the establishment, people that probably he should have picked when he did this run the first time. And if you really dig into it, I'm like, I don't want to sound snarky or sarcastic. I was thinking about a better way of saying this, but it's like, I'm glad there's some people that are in their 40s now, and they've got kids, and they're like, hey, now I want to learn about health. And now I want to be like, in the science.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we've been fucking arguing about public water for like 20 years, right? It's like the first thing you learn when you start getting into holistic modalities, right? And we had a specific book I'll bring up that we had to read in our HLC 1 course, right? And you have to understand it. We would even teach this in our course, like what percentage of the earth is water, what percentage of the body is water, what percentage of your cells are water, like how important is water. My whole delve into the world of weight cutting for athletes was avoiding all that water cutting because there's a different way, right? Like it's so fucking key to life. So in the preempt to the show, I ran a quick reel to like push the show, and it was just like, this appointment of Robert Kennedy and what he wants to do and what he's claiming he's going to do with the water, I think it's like I said, like I want to be cynical, and it's really great that in your 40s you decided to work out, and now you want to like get involved with like things for your kids. It's like, well, I want to argue about who can teach what to my kids. It's like, bitch, do you have any idea how important water is? And the fact that we actually might have somebody who takes, like, how much have we taught people that like, okay, listen, we want to look at the studies, but like, you can't always trust the FDA. Like, I know you want to trust the science. We believe in PubMed, but the nutrition shit's kind of bad and the vaccine shit's crooked, right? But like, there's no argument on water. It's so fucking good for you. And then there's a public official at the right hand of the president who's going to be like, as of January 20th, we're going to say no more fluoride in the water. Like, do you realize when you and I first were getting certified, we had to argue with people whether it was even like we had doctors and dentists be like, no, fluoride's good. It should be in the water.
Yeah.
And in our lifespan, in just 3 presidents, we have a guy who's like, no, it's fucking horrible, and we're pulling it out. So let me like kind of turn it over to you. Like, I know you like how important is water from your perspective? Like, what's the zinger you could like, if you could be like, could drill one thing into people's head? Like, this is why water is so goddamn important. And then this might be why public water cleanliness is so important, because, you know, like you said the other day when I had you, you know, I would like the people eat really good quality foods. Like, it counts, right? There's good carbs and bad ones. Like, there's good water, bad water. What is that one really thing you could drill home to people that would convert them to understanding how important not just being hydrated is, but the cleanliness of their water sources?
Yeah. We actually did a whole episode of this on More in Black and White on episode 21, and I interviewed a few people and got some. I didn't get them on the channel, but I interviewed a few people before doing what I'm doing, so I'm regurgitating a lot of what they're saying. And one of the people, like, I've actually read this guy's book. He's one of the leading biologists in the world. His name is Philip Lane. And one thing that he says is he goes, somebody asked the question, like, what is life? And he says, life is structured water and death is destructured water. So not all water is the same. All right. Just because you drink Avion water on a shelf does not mean that water is good for you. And it gets a lot more into it. And it's so important. Like, everything is energy. Therefore, everything has information. So and you also got to kind of take a step back. Like, everybody has something called their dharma. Every living organism in the world has something called their dharma. And the dharma is basically your life's purpose. What are you here to do? Water's life purpose, water's dharma is going down the streams in the mountain, going side to side, you know, just being free, being having a lot of flow of energy, and if that makes that water happy. Again, that's information going to the water. When you start having waters in city wells where it's like 90-degree angle pipes, ding, 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 then we take it out, we put it in a bottle, and it sits on its shelf. It's not happy water. That water is very denatured. It's very immature, meaning it lacks structure. It lacks energetic frequencies, energetic qualities. It's traumatized. And we can kind of go through some things, and I can teach you guys how to like charge your water to change all that around. So like, even though like Avion water and the bottled water is, better than tap water, a lot of times you're not getting that quality information or that good quality water in your body for a lot of reasons. So I'll kind of leave you. We'll start off with that.
I was gonna say, okay, let me stop you right there and say, Brian, what the fuck did you just tell me? My Avion water is not good for me. I thought drinking Avion and Fiji is the greatest thing I've ever done. And two, I could care less about the trauma emotions of my fellow human beings. Why am I worried about the trauma and the emotions of my water?
Well, you should care about the trauma of it, because we're all connected. We're all connected.
I want to give you the cynics, right? Like, you took us through a lot there. So
yes.
you use terminology that I think a lot of my audience, all 8 of them, would be like, what do you mean trauma? And what do you mean the charge of water? And I think I want to just back up one step and then hand it to you. Is that, think of it this way. What is the one thing you do not want to mess with when you have an open wire or conductive electricity? What do you not want to be standing in? If you think about water's interaction with electricity at the very basic level, everybody who's stayed alive understands things like you don't put a fork in the electric outlet. And you want to be really careful around electricity and water because it can carry a charge. So if you just start to open the door there, it's like, okay, maybe water has more in it, because if you start to think water is not just simply something that's liquid, there's an anatomical structure to it. And this anatomical structure is built upon and connected to things. And one of those things that can run through that is electricity. So if we understand water is a little bit more than that, there's a structure to it. And that structure can conduce electricity. Can we at least open our minds to think that there's other things that can transfer in it? Can you be more specific to what do you mean by charged and what do you mean by trauma? To me, I want to laugh a little bit at the idea that just because the water runs through as a pipe, it's not happy. Because it's funny, I tell clients, like, smart water is not really smart, guys. So I feel like, but happy water is happy. So explain to us a little bit more. What do you mean by charged, and what do you mean by the trauma that water? What does that mean structurally and charge wise, I guess?
Well, when you have immature water or denatured water, it lacks its structure. The water quality isn't the same. I know you kind of want to go like into like the Emoto stuff later, where like when he does like kind of, his studies are a little cherry picked, as I can kind of get into, but what he did was he blessed the water. Then he took the certain crystal, or he took the water samples, and the water that he blessed was like these beautiful crystals around it. And the water that he wasn't blessed, it was like had like black holes in it. This shapes were all misconstrued. So basically, you need to understand, like, water is a conscious living being, just like you and I, but it has the capacity to be like this highly intellectual living being. Water is information. So like, John, like you got to understand, like, people just drink water and eat food with no consciousness of what they're putting in the body, no consciousness of the vital information that's putting in their body. Like, if you eat an animal that's been slaughtered in an inhumane way, you gain that energy and you put that into the body. And this is the problem. Like, listen, I'm going off on a tangent here. Like, this is the problem with science.
I love it though.
Yeah, but this is the problem with science. Like, if you really, people don't understand scientists don't understand what energy is. They understand what it does and how to create it, but they don't really understand what energy is, because the tools that they have can only look at the energy on a physical realm. They don't look at the other six planes that are out there. They don't look at an emotional level, because there's no tools to detect it. There are tools out there, but it's mainstream science. They can't detect it. There's no emotional, there's no mental, there's a causal phase, there's a spiritual phase. There's so many other phases you can look at. And we don't understand the emotional aspect and the mental aspect that we bring into the body every time we take something living in our body. So again, you go with like an animal that's been slaughtered in a inhumane way, and we put that into our body, we gain that vibration from that animal during that time of stress, and that puts that stress on our body. A lot of people aren't aware of that because it's not talked about, and it's not airy fairy. Just science can't prove it because they don't have the instruments to do that. So that's another wonderful reason that you should eat organic as much as possible. So same thing as like we talked about Dharma, like your life's purpose. John, if I tell you, hey, what's your life's purpose? Hey, you want to spread the word of health out there. You want to do all this stuff. And I tell you, hey, you can't do that. You need to do X, Y, and Z. You're not going to be a happy person. You're going to give all bad vibes because you're not living what you should be doing.
So I can follow that. But
yeah.
So let's back up on the water issue, because I want to get more into this idea that water is living and sentient, because what I want to eventually do is loop this episode into, I know it's going to kind of sound weird. I want to loop this episode into the idea to give some people some hope, because I it's like a just overabundance amount of negativity from the left people that are in my feeds and in my sphere that are like, oh my God, the world's fucking over. And I'm like, dude, I really think when you step back, the things that really matter on the hierarchy are survival, really good access to clean foods, like you're saying. This episode, really access to clean public water. Like so here's the thing, one of the things I had to learn as a coach is like to meet people where they are in their journey, right? Remember when you first get into holistic, you're like, you're not my client unless you're going to do A, B, and C, like, right? And then you realize, okay, that's my job is to be more of a shepherd and an educator versus a dictator and a drill sergeant, right? Like we go through evolutions as our coaches. So what I look at is like, okay, I don't think we're going to get a mass amount of people in the public to buy into this idea that we're sentient and that it needs to be living, and we're absorb trauma and we're going to, right? Because the science, they believed bad science when it came out with vaccines. They were so quick to eat it up that it's like, but I know what could affect people. And I believe this is the Paul Chek, tell them what they hear, give them what they need, is if you are from a disadvantaged neighborhood, which we have a good amount of, right? An economically depressed area. And you look at what happened with Flint, Michigan, without getting into the knowledge or the depthness of sentient water and happy and trauma. I think people would start to open this door better understanding why fluoride is so bad in water. Like how, like, right, like let's like, instead of worrying about how clean your water needs to be, for the mass amount of American public to have clean water without fluoride for 1 to 2 generations, you're talking in your, whatever you want to call it, ghettos, depressed economic areas, right? Flint, Michigan areas, like all of a sudden, come 2025, everybody in those areas, their public water now has no fluoride in it. So it's still going to be clunky and running through everything. But there's where I'm like, here's what I kept reminiscing about with RFK coming in this. RFK is one branch away from Paul Chek through Aubrey Marcus. So I don't know if you follow Aubrey Marcus and what he posts, but he talked about how he had met RFK about, I don't know, 2 years ago or so, right before he was publicly going to announce he was going to run for president, before he even decided he was, going to side with Trump. And they had this like meeting of the minds and souls where he's, they did, I don't know if they did ayahuasca or Muslims, but I think they even did something like that. And RFK's like, if you give me the platform, I'll change all the food and the processing and vaccines, like, and then Marcus he's got this thing called Fit for Service, and then behind the scenes, he's got influence. And he starts, I think, getting the alignment of that large holistic pull of that community over to be like, listen, like, we've been trying to do this for 30 years. Like, get somebody to fucking recognize that Monsanto's bad and patents on seeds is bad. And like Dr. Mark Hyman from functional medicine, like, I was really upset to see there was a big influencer taking a shot at him because he was trying to talk to people about being a little bit more holistic, like it's too hunky-dory. Like, this guy's testifying in front of Congress to get food dyes out of our food. So like, never before, remember I think you and I talked about that with the Elon Musk. Like, I think there's very few people that could come aboard a company and have this drastic flip around. But now that Trump's won, we're going to see what's going to happen the 20th. And I really think about, if you want it good for children, I think it's like 60 some vaccines a child gets hit with within 24 to 48 hours of being born. If Trump is what RFK says he is, and if he allows RFK to do what RFK says he's going to do, right? There's a lot of ifs, but now we're going to get the social experiment. what can you as a holistic coach spending years with this battle speak to from the idea that what if 6 months to a year into 2025, fluoride's out of the public water system, and the FDA and the food systems changed that all food has to be organic. Because here's the thing, I get that it would be an expensive thing, but it's like any other industrial turnaround. I think that's what Trump is counting on, is that if we give the right tax breaks and we build the right ability for businesses to go lateral, all of you company. God, I'm way off fucking topic, but Tom Blue did his speech at RoofCon that I was at, and he talked about why Quest bars cornered the market and crushed everybody. And it didn't really have to do. You and I both knew they weren't super healthy.
Yeah.
Here's what he fucking figured out. It was that all of the machines in manufacturing of protein bars were built in a certain way that they only worked with high fructose corn syrup. So everybody was telling him, but you can't do the bars without it. And it had nothing to do with the health. It had to do with the manufacturing. No one just asked the deep enough why. So once he figured out the deep enough why, he changed the manufacturing. Now he created a whole new industry of machines that are built to access that. We have thousands of bars that do that. Trump knows the economy enough, along with Elon, that we're not going to like destroy the food industry. We're just going to tell a fuck you to the 5%ers that are controlling the food industry, that now you're going to have to take all that money out of your coffers and reinvest your business and rebuild your businesses. You're going to have to convert in 3 years to organic. You don't have a choice. So I'm sorry, I don't want to get off on topic because I do get a little excited about this. What I want you to do is, in your experience and your knowledge, because I think you hit people with a lot of knowledge, what happens to our youth and our public if come 2025, we go to a year with no fluoride in our public water and a mandate that everyone has to start converting over to like organic foods in the grocery stores? Or, and I said this a long time ago, food stamps get a higher value or can only be used with local based farmers, so that cycle, what the government gives people to spend in food can only be used for organic foods. They're forced to buy healthy, because that's what I was getting at with Dr. Mark Hyman. He said, if you really want to think that there's systemic racism that holds other minorities down, it's this food stamp program. Because if you look at the foods you can buy on EBT and food stamps, like 80-90% of them are highly, highly processed foods. You can't buy fresh market foods. You have a limited amount of vegetables and stuff. He goes, think about the insanity. That's where it is. It's like the poor people that are getting subsidized help with food, which is a good thing. Well, as a government, we should help our people elevate. I can get behind that. But then the only food source you give them are the worst possible food source. So again, I keep repeating the question. I apologize. Speak to the cleanliness of water in the food system with no fluoride for a year. What do you think that does to kids and stuff, that your tap water, like, again, I get it. It's not the fucking high structure. It's not super, but these kids are drinking maybe high fructose corn syrup, purple drink, at best, maybe some Tropicana with no pulp with vitamin D enriched, right? Like at best, that's what they're getting. And maybe they're getting a couple glasses of water. And come the end of 2025, kids are drinking 8 to 16 glasses of water with no fluoride. Like, what do you think that does to development?
I think it'll go a long way. I mean, there's still other chemicals they got to kind of deal with. I just don't ever, like, I hate to be like pessimistic or cynical about it, but I just don't see there's any way we're ever going to go to all organic. I don't think that's going to be an option. Too much money in there. I think it's going to take a while for get fluoride out. But what I do admire, or I do have the hopeful potential that will happen, will bring more awareness. Because right now, the majority of the population thinks, "Oh, fluoride's great. You know, it's like it's good for your teeth." No, actually, fluoride decays your teeth actually more. Like, people don't realize that. It's just like this meme that we have just drilled in our head, like, oh, fluoride's good for the teeth and makes, bright, shiny smile. And that's all it is. Like, people are just struck on that. And so much research out there, you got to dig into it, because you can't just Google it. Because Google's a propaganda machine, basically. So you're not going to be able to find this information. You really got to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. But once you find your research, you'll find out that fluoride makes your teeth worse. Fluoride makes your IQ lower. It actually causes calcification on your pineal gland, which inhibits your third eye, or inhibits your intuition.
So who do you think drinks the most amount of public water with fluoride in it?
Oh, the lower economic people, the people in these, of course, and it's like they don't get
So when we're teaching people their health, like when somebody comes in and talks to you, right? Hey, Coach Brian, I want to get healthy.
Yeah.
because I embrace your. I don't think you're being cynical. I think you make two great points. I think you're like, hey, I don't want to put the horse before the carriage. I'm not getting too
Mhm.
excited. We have a lot of work to do, but I recognize that this might be the biggest. I say this, and this
Yeah.
might be the biggest breakthrough in awareness that people. Because I think come 2 years into Trump's term, regardless of any other
Mhm.
policies, if this happens with vaccines, food, and water, you're going to see a generation that's just like,
Yeah.
whoa, right?
Yeah.
And then the ball fucking starts to pick up momentum because
Mhm.
enough of the old heads like us that have been fighting are still there to like pick up right. We're still voting and we're still part of the work demographic and so forth. We're not out the pasture yet. Um, but I embrace that. But I think that's a great point you make is that this is, and I'm going to take the next step is like probably like we've never had a presidential candidate. I'm sorry, now a president that's
Yeah.
even been like, so this is what I was getting at. I said a long time ago if Paul Check was made the director of health and wellness as the education for elementary school, I think you'd see a generation, I'd see in 2 generations, fucking a whole different world.
Yeah.
Because once we do it and it works, it's going to spread, right? Um, Paul Check is one fucking arm's length away from Kennedy now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Aubrey Marcus goes and does this chills with Paul, and then he goes and chills with RFK. They're one fuck. Like I wish we could mobilize all the Checkies just to bombard RFK with an at Paul Check. Like
Mhm.
how crazy would it? Because RFK is not somebody who's borderline like, yeah, I think it's okay. I smoked pot once and it's better. He was a massive fucking drug addict, so he knows how bad that rabbit hole
Mhm.
is. He then rebuilt his life and he understands psilocybin, bofu, ayahuasca. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
he's all in on the alternative medicine side,
Sure.
So it's like he's someone who would sit down with Paul and be like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Do you know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah.
I don't know. I get a little overexcited, but that's
I would,
where
I would, I would love to. I would love to see that happen. I would
and
love to
that's
see
what I
that
like.
happen.
And here's what I want to say to people that are on the left that are all crying about, oh, like I saw so many people I know that are so intelligent, high
Yeah.
degrees, with these like posts like, I gotta talk to my kid today because I gotta tell him he's still gotta go out there. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. I was like, and I'm looking at this like, wow, like what you should be saying to your kid, even if you're upset, first of all, you need to check yourself as a parent. Why did you demonize somebody so bad that now your child is like upset and depressed to go to school? Like it's what's fucking Satan that like wow. And then you realize like the media machine even got the very
Yeah.
intelligent people, right? And you're like, so I want to say to those people that were like, your kids, especially if they're younger, are about to have some of the greatest fucking health times they've ever been. Like
Yeah.
you don't understand, like that's why I get to like my bitter cynicism of like, hey, I'm happy that you're 40 and now because you were fat for 30 years, you want to get healthy
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, water is good for you. Oh God, organic is good for you, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
glad you kind of came here. Now you care because your kids are there. But we've been on this fight for 2 decades, and trust us, the right of what somebody wants to name their pronoun pales in comparison to everybody having fluoride out of their water.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There's a hierarchy. Like as coaches, when somebody comes to you and they say, Brian, I want to get healthy, one of the things you talk to them about, I'm sure, is your water. So like, wouldn't we do that with our kids? Like, wouldn't we want that for like, imagine all this? So like, I don't know. Like, I wish we could
I try to
mobilize.
give I give people the benefit of the doubt. Listen, this is my thing. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've spent $100,000 flying around the world, like going to
Mhm.
seminars, meeting the best people. Some people don't do that, and that's not their strength. My
Yeah.
strength is like you give me a hammer and a nail, I'm gonna be in the ER next week. Like I'm not good at building shit. Like so, I try to
Yeah.
give I try to give like people the benefit of the doubt, and that's what like I'm here to try to do, and that's part of like the legacy I want to leave behind is kind of educate people. So I don't
What do you
go
mean by
into
benefit of the doubt? What do you mean by
well, like
giving them the benefit?
I go with them like, hey, they just they don't get it. They don't get it.
Oh
Maybe
no,
they
no, yeah,
think it's
I'm sorry. My scenario is like they're saying to you, Brian, I believe you're the smartest guy to go to. Like, what
Mhm.
should I do first? I'm sure one of the first things you're going to say to them is something
Yeah.
around
I asked them about their
right,
water intake,
water's
and
important.
then
Yeah,
yeah, and then like I always have this conversation. How much water are you drinking? And I always kind of get like, I can do better, blah blah blah. I'm like, and I try to break it down. Like, you don't understand how like important water is. Like 70% of your body, 83% of your brain is like water. If you don't have water, your body can't function well. You're not going to be able to burn fat. You're not going to be able to increase your metabolism. You're not going to be able to sleep well. You're not going to be able to have good thoughts. Like all this stuff is going on. And then a lot of the time it goes, well, if I drink more water, I'm going to start peeing all the time. Then I got to kind of break it down a little bit with them. Be like, that's because your body's dehydrated. You know, you can't just drink a gallon of water right now and be like, oh, I'm hydrated. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. What happens is when you start drinking when your body's dehydrated, I would say 99% of people's bodies are dehydrated. Because even if you drink clean water, you don't know if it's denatured or how long it's been on the shelf. Remind me though, I'll show you guys a little trick to revitalize your water, or tell you guys a trick. And I tell people, it's like, listen, if you just drink water right now, what it's doing, it's going into your organs. Because your organs are so backed up with toxins. And the reason you're peeing so much is your body's just trying to flush out all those toxins out of your water. And it doesn't trust you to put any of that water into the cells of your muscle or into your fascia. You need to drink water, a lot of water, for a good 4 to 6 weeks. And then after a while, you'll stop peeing and your body be like, okay, I trust you now. This water is going to start going into your fascia. It's going to start going into your muscles. And then you got to make sure your electrolytes are good, because you can always have water just hanging out on the outside of your cells. Maybe it's not getting on the inside of your cells because you lack sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, calcium, and phosphate. So you need
how many athletes you presume are deficient in at least magnesium?
Oh, everyone. Anytime your body's under any kind of stress, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, environmental, biological, or chemical, thermal, whatever it is, your body's leaking magnesium.
If you're deficient in magnesium, you're hindered in your ability to get intracellular hydration, which means it's not as simple as drinking water. We need to fix, right? You got to keep going deeper.
Magnesium is like an anti-anxiety supplement. Yeah. How many people in this world, or how many people in this country, I should say, have a lot of anxiety because we're all magnesium deficient. Like I just got back from Africa. No one's had they're like eat so many cashews all day and peanuts and all this other stuff. Like they have no anxiety, no depression, no the suicide rate. They're like, huh? Like it's a complete opposite of what we have here. It's funny. When I was out there, like they have nothing. I'm talking poverty. Like I went to this person's house. This kid dragged me. He's like, oh, I want to show you my family. Went to their house. It's like the size of my kitchen, very small. And they had 2 goats, 2 brothers, and a family living there. Super happy. Like sleeping next to a goat. They have nothing out there, and we have everything. And and they're just so happy, and we're so miserable. Like I was talking to guys, like we don't have depression, we don't have anxiety, we don't have suicides out here. And not saying magnesium is it, but it's like it
means throw away all your items and go live in a fucking hut.
Go to Senegal.
Dude, I'm actually not that far away from that. I have this weird, I think this whiteness in me is coming out. It's weird where I see these ads for, swear to God, dude, because I've been looking for those businesses like you told me, right? So somehow I stumbled upon a page of abandoned properties in the Midwest. So it's like 8 acres, log cabin, 150,000, but you got to probably rebuild everything because it's been abandoned for 6 years. And I'm just like, it's like you said, like I can't fucking handle a hammer and a nail. I don't know fucking how to wrestle a cow, but I really feel like giving it a shot.
I'm sure there's a YouTube video out there that'll teach me how to handle the cow.
I hate YouTube. I know. You know me. I'll go out there and be like, I'll just wing it. I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll get a book on it. It's funny. You said that to me. I'm so bad with technology, and I realized that's something else with me where you're like, there's been a few things I've been trying to learn. I said to somebody, hey, can you show me how to do this? And they're like, hey, just YouTube it. And I was like, one, man, I forgot we live in an era where everything can be YouTube. And B, I hate the fact I live in an era where everything can be YouTube. Somebody just show me how to do it. I felt like this, and I call it like my old man stage. Like I've just got to the point now where like, man, I remember having 2 cell phones and loving the idea of like everything's at the access. Now I want nothing to have access, and I just want to go out to a wood cabin, right. But to jump back to water and food. Here is the other thing I wanted to bring up to you. You on some of your podcasts, you talk about let's just say today's modern structured education. That you're not a fan of it. What are your thoughts on homeschooling? Obviously, if it's done proper.
I think you have a much better chance at succeeding in the world. Listen, I don't want to say
No. I don't want to make a bad.
no, but this is for me too. Like we have a 2.5-year-old kid, and I think I can teach him more, or I can find somebody that can teach him more than what the school systems can teach. But the only thing I like about the school systems is that they can interact with people. They can work. They can be around more kids, and I want that. But as far as the education goes, like I've been saying this forever, like schools, they don't teach you 3 things. They don't teach you how to be happy. They don't teach you how to build relationships, and they don't teach you how to make money. I mean, look at the world that
shouldn't the parents teach that?
100%. 100%. But like
And
nowadays,
I don't think we should blame the
back
school
in the
system. That's the
1970s or
parents.
1980s, like that can happen. Now both parents have got to work. Some parents got to have 2 jobs, then they got to drive their kids around. It's a lot. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Listen, I don't disagree with you, but that's an economic issue. That goes back
how
to
many parents do you know that know how to make money? Like really know how to make money? Like they don't. Like we're so financially
they don't know how to
illiterate.
they don't know how to make money, or they don't know how to hold on to money. I think when I worked in the mortgage business, I saw more than enough Americans who highly buried themselves in debt because they take out loans for cars and credit cards and things that were way outside their ability to match. I do agree with you that the economic component of elementary to high school is drastically lacking in both understanding tax code and understanding financial literacy to hold. Like I liken the American population to the NFL rookies, right? Like at some point, like you got to blame the rookie for blowing his money so fucking fast. But the other point is the NFL is take some ownership, and now they make them go through like financial literacy classes.
Yeah.
I think we need that in public school. I think that's a great point to make.
But what is most economic? I mean, you have a background in finance. Like what? I mean, like what they teach you? Like, hey, go to school, put money in a 401k, put some money in the stock market, and buy a house.
So here's the thing: finance is as difficult as medicine. And this is what I tell people: is that people make the assumption in the same way we make the illogical. I'm sorry, we make the it makes the logical actually, but it's incorrect assumption that if you're a doctor, you know nutrition. It's like if you're a doctor of the heart, you're not delivering babies. Like medicine's deep, finance is deep too. I think for what I learned in finance is you learn the basic structural foundations of how that financial system works, whether it's bonds or this or that or that. You learn theory, and there's always been this argument in academia is how much application is academia responsible for teaching you. It's supposed to teach you theory. And everybody argues, like, all you do is go to school and learn theory. But that's the point of academia. The expression, the application of the theory is supposed to be through internships and getting a job. Like I firmly would like my son. I believe in higher education, but I want my son to spend 1 year traveling the world before he goes to college. I'd like him to work a job. I want him to get some of that because I believe it'll better, because I believe the education system is more like a tool. You need to be prepped to know how to use it. I believe we do fail our youth in the basic foundational elements of taxes and financial literacy. Like I
100%.
Sorry, back to your statement, which was, is it people don't know how to make money, or do people don't know how to hold on to the money or live within their means? Be happy, like you just said it. What I want to say was I ran into a doctor who her study from I think Princeton or Harvard was interesting because she studied happiness related to materialism. And like based upon the metrics of this study, the happiest people had the least material, and the people with the most material items were the most unhappy, speaking to your point. Yeah. So where is it we don't know how to hold on to our money, or I know we're fucking way off water.
I think we know where to we don't not that we don't know where to invest it. Like most people buy liabilities, they don't buy assets.
Yeah. But that's because they materially think that liability gives them something that, like, this is what I said. It's like you get the BMW.
They don't have that. They don't want that long-term gratification. They want the short-term gratification. They don't want to hold on to it. And these people don't have it. Like, where do you invest your money? Like, I was reading something that was interesting the other day, and it was like I take a lot of business. I do a lot of business seminars and from people that are outside in like private sectors, and nobody has. Wealthy people don't put money in a 401k. And I get it. It's not bad. Like, listen, that's all you know. At least you're doing something, and, company gives you a little bit of money. But if you look at the last, like, say, 4 to 5 years, our dollar has the half-life of 10 and a half years, meaning that if you have $1 million right now, In 10 years from now, that $1 million will still be there, but it's only worth 500,000. You can only buy 500.
Assuming no growth. Assuming no
If you
growth.
tell a 25-year-old kid right now to, hey, start investing money in a 401k, and just say, by the time you're 65, you can retire. Now you have $2 million in your 401k. In 40 years, $2 million is going to feel like $500,000 now. Now, then you're going to get hit with probably a 40% tax on top of that. So what are you saving for the last 40 years? Like, that's what they teach you in school. Like, it just doesn't. That's what they'll just put your money in the stock and let me do this. It's a system.
They don't teach you that in school.
No, I know, but like, you know, but like,
they don't
get out of school and what do they teach you? Go to a financial advisor. Talk to a financial advisor, and financial advisors are only schooled in securities. They're not schooled in like private sectors or anything like that.
We get taught and licensed a lot, but here's what I think is more powerful to your point: is the people who teach us are the people who are selling the product.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? Like the guy who, right? The people who taught me about a 401k and how, like, because I would tell people a 401k is like, and to fairness to financial companies, and there's a lot I have to speak about them. I spent time very deep in there. We do tell people off the bat, like the 401k is like just like at the bare minimum, just do this.
Yeah.
Where somewhere in the public world of financial literacy, maybe because it's not taught, people believe that the 401k is all you need to do. That's the error, right? Yes. Like no one, and then because as financial advisors, we're taught to tell people you need more than a 401k because we fucking make money on everything else we sell. So we are out there, whether you want to believe we're evil for goodness or for profit, we are telling people that's not the end. You need to do more. But I don't know where it's coming from, because I know it's not taught in high school economics. I know it's not taught in college economics. But
you make money and then you make money and then you get a job and they're like, oh, we also have a 401k match plan. Talk to a financial advisor, and that's as far as people go to educate themselves. You know, like
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, and if you look at like I did this whole seminar, so some of the brightest minds out there. And listen, I'm not a financial expert in no way whatsoever, but I have applied a lot of this to my lifestyle and I've done good. But like the only things that you have something called a hurdle rate in finance. So after you add in, you know, there's three different kind of quotes, like, and there are three different kind of variables in there. One being like depreciation, one being, or not depreciation, one being inflation, the other two. Basically what it comes out to, we have a hurdle rate of 14%, meaning that if you're not at least making 14% on your ROI every single year, you're losing money. And they don't tell you that. And there's only two things that are make you over 14% every year. That's the S&P 500. I'm sorry, the NASDAQ and Bitcoin. Those are the only two things. And people are like, Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. But if you follow some of the richest institutions in the world, like BlackRock, they just bought a shit ton of more Bitcoin the other day. They own 400,000 Bitcoin at $58 billion. Follow that. You know?
Yeah. I mean, listen,
you're not going to invest money into something that is not going to be the future.
Yeah, but part of Bitcoin's rise was investment on idiocy. So, and what I mean by that is the fact that Bitcoin to me followed the success pattern of CrossFit in fitness. Like, it's amazing to me CrossFit's still around, but the cult like mentality.
Yeah. It'll be around. It'll be around
because it does this great thing of creating a cult-like community, which human beings are starving for. Right? Well, we're social creatures, and we need interaction. We want to feel like we belong. We want to feel like we're important. And what's even I think the toxic addiction is that you think you're doing good for you and your community by doing CrossFit because you do these like in honor workouts and all this shit, and it's like we learned this in gym sales, right? Like Bally's did this with the the impossible they were the ones who were like, listen, if we drop rates to $9.99, that's not enough money for people to be worried about sitting on the phone for more than 10 minutes to cancel their membership. So we make the whole time 11. And they fucking like I forget, there was this whole thing, and I remember Bally's was genius about this. And so they're like, how the hell are they making money by dropping their rates? And there was this they knew anyway. Here's my point. I wanted to do this one. When you talked about when people get their 401k and they're like, hey, yeah, we give this matching program, go talk to a financial advisor. Doesn't that sound similar to something else? Hey, I got a pain, or I got a pain and I said, I don't feel good. And my doctor said, I'll just go or I don't just go talk to a trainer.
Well, the whole point is the reason we're talking about this because the educational system broke. They want you to fit in this box that everyone else is doing.
Listen,
That's the problem.
We started to say,
like if I was going to homeschool my kid, and I'd rather homeschool my kid on finance, even though I'm not a financial I'm not a financial person. Like I don't have any degrees on it, which in a way I think gives me an advantage. So somebody the other day is like, "Oh, you're not a doctor." Yeah, if I was a doctor, I wouldn't be able to talk about this stuff.
No, I disagree with that because your personality is your personality. If you were a doctor, you would be one of those guys that either A, gave up his license, or B, is at the forefront of pushing more holistic stuff. Like I truly believe that.
I don't know where that path will, but if I was your average doctor, that's been
I've seen all the paths.
I get what you're saying, but
you wouldn't be the average doctor.
I would probably have gone out. Yeah, but
I love you, Brian.
Well, like you have the average doctor, then you have an average holistic person.
You get trapped in that paradigm because I think it's again though. Back to what you. So let's draw it back. Was one. I think the PE, like what we teach in physical education versus financial, is even fucking worse. And that kind of drew us back to this whole RFK, Water, Trump being one person away from Paul Check, because I believe Eat, Move, and Be Healthy should be the fucking, like, you should get that in like 6th, 7th grade. Do you know what I mean? Like how that would drastically change the way the paradigm would shift. But how do, like, whose responsibility is it for the financial stuff? Like, should that be, and I'm probably in agreement with you. I'm sorry. Let me tie the last loop together. The reason I brought up the homeschooling was Trump just extended, when you talk about the holistic side of things, a lot of people in the holistic world are very much into homeschooling. Trump just said, hey, listen, we approved the other year a $10,000 tax rebate cut. I forget the exact terminology, but you can get $10,000 of school supplies back as a parent. It was not eligible if you homeschooled. Trump's like, no more of that. You want to homeschool your kid, you get the same tax benefit. So you can claim $10,000 in school supplies to homeschool your child. To give them. So like, there's no president that would even acknowledge that homeschooling was a good thing.
Yeah.
This guy's like, I'm not even arguing if it's good. What'd you say, Kennedy? Okay. You give the tax cut. I'm impressed by that. And that's where I want to give some light to the fact that come January 20th, we'll see what happens with fluoride. But I also think Trump's smart enough from a businessman standpoint to say, well, you know what? All you people that have been getting rich the last 50 years or since 1940 and they pump fluoride, fuck you. You got to figure out how to adapt. All you other people, it's coming down the pipe. Come up with new technology, come up with new contracts, and you're going to get all the government money. So there's just going to be a shift. There's going to be the same amount of money. He's just going to shift who's going to make the money. And if Kennedy can stay true, and I pulled some clips of him saying, like, we're going to replace a lot of these heads of organizations. It's CDC, it's FDA, NIH.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're pulling all the old school government people out. We're putting in. So that's where I'm like, man, if somehow RFK can pull, and I know it's a pipeline dream, and I'm but maybe we can like close on this and we can charge the water for Paul. But dude, could you fucking imagine in our lifetime when we joked about it getting HLC that like in our lifetime maybe Eat, Move, Be Healthy would be required reading in elementary school?
It should be.
Like, I think with RFK now involved with FDA, you're going to see psychedelics broken wide open for veterans, which is something the last 2 years I got more involved in, and I think that's like good. And I think that, so I guess we're at a little bit over 45 minutes. I want to leave time for you to do the water, to show everybody the water charging, because that'd be also a cool clip I want to pull. But I wanted to say this because we got off. I love talking to you. We do get off track. But I kind of was like, in this attempt to
you get off track, not me. Don't blame this on me.
Dude, the water.
You get off track.
The water went through trauma. I'm traumatized by the water going through trauma.
Water to fluoride to Trump to RFK to what are we? 401ks. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, I was gonna say you gave a financial lesson. I got off topic. I'm like, well, you're like speaking of structure. How's your 401k, John? Because I'm like, is your 401k happy? I think I'm fucking traumatized. I'll tell you that. But anyway, when you're somebody out there and you're a parent and you're like, oh, I think Trump is this Nazi and he's a fascist and he hates women. It's like, can you like if I like I've always been a pretty fair middle of the road guy. Like if I can ask everybody to kind of like just do a willing suspension of disbelief of the media, like you do that when you read your novels and your fiction, and just say like, what if we had really clean public water?
Yeah.
What if we had a really clean food source? What if we had direct access to scientific information on vaccines, whether they were good or bad, and could make choices?
Yeah.
Like, what if homeschooling picked up? Wouldn't that, instead of fighting us right now about who gets the right for what pronoun or what gets done in education or who's this or who's what if that future generation who's going to decide that grew up with healthy food and water and no vaccines? How reasonable, peaceful, and intelligent and empathetic do you think that generation will be if they had those clean sources?
Sure.
And I think racism, bigotry, you're always going to have evil in the world. It's always going to happen. That's part of the life. But I think the amount of people on the side of good would drastically change if we changed all those. So like if you really want what's good for your children and their children's children, if we started to base elements of food, water, I think in a year's term of good food, water, people will be like, it'd be interesting too to see what people will be able to say, hey, you know what, I was wrong when I said he was this, that, and the other.
Yeah. A lot of people would go
We'll
off
see.
antidepressant medicines. People would be leaner. People would be healthier. Obesity rate would drop. There's so many things that would come out of it. The problem is it takes a hit from the pharmaceutical companies. So let's see how much. I definitely think if like it's going to get a lot of backlash. It's going to get a lot of backlash.
Dude, that's my point. Like some people say to me,
I mean, obviously it's going to be a lot of
nobody, bro. There's nobody in the history of our presidency, maybe since Lincoln or those that have been shot, that could stand up to the establishment and now has the team. If you think about it, you can't buy off Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You can't buy Robert Kennedy's already been the quack, the weirdo, the piece of shit most of his life. He's not going to turn around and give into the system now. Do you know what I mean? Like his whole life. Like you know what I'm saying? Like he's built on an idea that he's like anyway, not to get off topic, because I've been watching him more and I've been more impressed that he's not just a figurehead that's pretending to pick up a movement. Like he's really living this life.
Sure.
And like you're not paying off Trump or Elon Musk and they don't make their money on pharmaceuticals. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like all the people, so if you think of it strategically, all of the people that are anti-Trump and anti-Elon that are, you know, like if you just want to like not care who's right or wrong, just like who's going to win the fight. All of the people that are anti them are the people with the pharmaceuticals, like money and the big pharma. So if they do change regulation to make it better for America and cut the knees out of the money of the people coming after them, maybe they're a lot smarter than we all realize. They could do something. Yeah, they could do something good and be, you know, strategically effective. You don't always have to be evil. I know. I agree with you. I think I said this before. I think Robert F. Kennedy and what he does in the first year tells you whether Trump is full of shit or not. Because if the food sources, the water sources, because I agree with you, the backlash is going to be huge. But he already took backlash from all the media, took backlash from being assassinated. You know what I'm saying? Like you already, like, I don't know if you're, you know, you might not want to backlash this guy. You know, Elon will land a fucking rocket on your house, and then Starlink it live. Oh man! All right, so real quick, we've got 5 minutes. Can you do the water charging in 5 minutes?
Yeah. So the best way to do it is real quick. So I've been taking biogeometry courses now from Dr. Robert Gilbert, who studied under Dr. Ibrahim Karim out of the University of out of Egypt, and this is going to go mainstream. He was on Marcus Aubrey Marcus. I always get those two names mixed up. What is it? Aubrey Marcus. Aubrey Marcus. Paul Check. And a couple other things. The guys, you got to watch his videos. It's unbelievable.
Oh, really? Okay.
But he talks about how shapes actually create your environment in your physical beings. Remember I was telling you about before, like certain, like the technology that we have today with the science, it only takes care of the physical realm. Anything else beyond that physical realm doesn't count as science because they don't have the tools to measure it. Like, yeah, so it gets into the mental, the emotional, the causal, the spiritual, all these different planes. So by having certain geometric shapes around, creates power spots around your body and everything like that. So one of the things they used to do back in ancient Egypt was every single sacred building was on a power spot. And these power spots, what Dr. Ibrahim Karim calls, is called BG3 spots. So basically biogeometry spots. And anytime you have two lines that kind of cross, like an X, in that middle, so underneath a lot of these structures were like two rivers that were crossing, and they would use like dowsing techniques to find these power spots. Anytime you have like an X like this, it creates a funnel. It creates a vortex that comes up, and those vortexes are super powerful. So we don't need the X, but when you put your water, like say like in a cup, the best thing you can do to revitalize the energy and structure the water molecules is spin it, create a vortex for about 30 seconds. Then you drink it afterwards. That'll change your Evian water into something much more powerful. There's actually things that, like, I forgot the guy's name. I want to say Schumer, where he has like things that come out of your faucet. You can like put some like shapes in your faucet, but actually spiralize the water as it's coming out, so you can drink vitalized water that way. One of the best things like I did was I bought a water filter. It's called Aqua True. So Aqua True, TRU. And what it does, it's reverse osmosis. It wasn't cheap. It was like $400, but like it's better than all the bottled water I'm spending out throughout the years. But it has reverse osmosis. And just for the record, like reverse osmosis is not good for you for a long term, because it's think of like an antibiotic. Yeah, you're killing bad bacteria, but you're also blowing up all the good bacteria. Where reverse osmosis, it takes everything out. But it comes with different filters that puts the good quality like dissolvents back into it. I highly suggest you get that. And if it comes with like two tanks. You have one in the back and one in the front. And the one in the back, you can look at it. It's like murky. And it takes about maybe like 12 to 15 minutes, and it converts over into the new tank. It's like crystal clear. It's so worth it. But
wow.
yeah,
what's it called? AccuTrue?
like water, AQUA, and then TRU. I think I spent like $350, $380 for it, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it because it's the only one on the market that gets rid of all like 80 something chemicals that are in there. I'm talking fluoride, arsenic, chlorine, all this other stuff. So it's amazing. But you can create like vortexes, but he talks about take like a flat object. Don't take a spoon, because the spoon causes some kind of curve and it doesn't structure the water molecule. Almost like take two like chopsticks and just go like kind of spin it around. But if you want to learn more about biogeometry, look into it's such a I can't wait to get into this. And I've been studying right now for the pre-course. I'm actually taking my first course tomorrow through Dr. Robert Gilbert. It's such a fascinating thing, and it's so amazing. Like one of the things, I'm going out to Egypt in end of January, and one of the things I'm learning about too. So if somebody says like, "Hey, how many sides does a pyramid have?" Most people are like, "Oh, it's like 4 sides, one flat, one around the other side." But a lot of people don't realize there's actually 8 sides to the pyramids. So when you have a regular pyramid, this goes for anybody. You have a pyramid in your house that's flat, that gives off a lot of bad energy. It's called negative green energy. And it's like every harmful plant, every poisonous animal in the world has negative green energy that has vertical waves. But to make it a horizontal wave, which is the way I remember is horizontal is helpful, is you have to, what the Egyptians did, if you look at the pyramid from the side, it wasn't discovered until the 1920s when somebody flew over. There's like a 1 degree indentation on each flat side right down the middle, which caved it in, and it turned those negative vertical waves into horizontal waves. And that's why it's so powerful in there. They put all these spots in there and everything like that. It's such a fascinating thing. So I can't wait to go out there and kind of check it out.
Yeah, we got to do a whole talk on that, because I'm a big history guy. I love everything and anything that has to do with Egypt or ancient Egypt. The other thing is there's so much more stuff coming up on the pyramids. I even remember when I studied history in college, we were just learning about that. Some of the burial chambers had this like weird hole They couldn't figure it out. And then, so they look through the hole and they're like, well, it goes out to the night sky, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't go anywhere. So it took somebody being like, wait a minute, the stars have shifted, like the Earth's rotation has shifted. So if we have to go all the way back to then, it fucking lines up with the North Star, which is in like Osiris's belt. And so they're like, how the hell did they get this through? Like, why did they do? There's things that just make no, what we would think would be logical sense for their science then, right? And now, right, like there's
a cool book out there. It's called Carl Jung wrote it. It's called The Gnostic Jung, and it's basically talks about like the four evolutions of man. So one was like the primitive man, where they were all mostly left brain, very little right brain. Then it went into the ancient brain, which was like basically like mostly like all right brain. And so they were getting like lateral thinking. They were very intuitive. And this has a lot to do with the ancient Egyptians. And then probably around the year, like maybe 2000 BC, it started shifting into what they call the modern man. How now we're more logical, we're more left brain, and we forgot it. We were like more like science based, we're more quantitative science instead of qualitative science. And now we're sort of going through that little shift where people start thinking outside the box a little bit, and their brain is actually, it's called the great shift right now, and the brain is actually going more towards the right brain. So we're getting more in tune with, so like back in the day, man, like we can say like all the science and technology we have is we're smarter, maybe. Are we more intelligent? Oh hell no, because we didn't know how to work with the sky. We didn't know how to work with the others. We don't know how to work with the sky. We don't know how to work with the energy spots. We don't know how to work with the other 7 planes. We don't know how to work with animals, plants, and all this other stuff. It's like, so we're so like stupid smart people.
I wouldn't say we're stupid smart. Well, I would say that because I'm pretty cynical. But I as somebody who's big in history, I have my degree in history. We've gone through a lot of this like comparison of old and new. What I've come to realize is we're just not well-rounded. Like there's definitely this great,
it doesn't count.
What?
That's if you can't measure it, it doesn't count. That's the kind of where we're at right now.
Well, that's not the most horrible thing. That's a really great foundation. Because
it doesn't help.
What?
It doesn't help. It doesn't help.
Helps a lot. Society's been pretty damn like listen, you can stack up all these negatives and we have these bad things going on, and I'm all about we got to change to get better. But when you look at the promulgation of the human race and science, we've outpaced our ability to invent and create with our ability to understand the morality of how to interact with our environment. And that's a very socio-economical study that you can look at across like all different societies, that if their technology outpaces their ability to keep their moral compass straight. And if you do get to an area where, historically the break is the dark ages to the middle ages to the age of enlightenment, like, because that's where you start to break away from the great power of the church, because the human mind starts to delve more into the science, and that science and structure saying, if we can't measure it, we're not accepting it. Stop witch hunts, stop people freaking being killed and prosecuted for religion. Stop, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of good that was done. Like you have to really understand.
I'm talking more the aspect as far as health and wellness goes. Like,
it helped up. I think here's the thing. It helped up into a certain point where the moral compass was lost with greed of pharmaceutical and Western medicine. Then those parameters didn't allow us to be like, wait a minute, if we're smart enough to get all this done artificially, we should be able to reverse engineer what they were doing before. Mm-hmm. Instead, we got caught in this paradigm where you don't want to go backwards.
I think it helped in far.
No help going backwards.
If I break a bone or I have an infection, I'm going to the doctor. If 100%. I'm good, if I want preventative medicine, mm-hmm. Like I said before, I'd rather go to my car mechanic. He knows more. Like But is
that the doctor's fault? We've had this argument, but that's not the doctor's fault. Like why are you going? Like I've said this to people before. Like, why are you going to your doctor to like lose weight? Like, of course he's going to give you a drug. That's what he's taught. Because the human population would rather go to a doctor who says it's okay, here's your drug, versus coming to a trainer like us being like, listen, Len, how's your relationship with your dad? What the fuck does that have to do with? Well, what are structured and it's happy, and it's like. So right, because the process of peeling all the shit back to get someone truly healthy, it's the American's choice. And like if you're a doctor, it's like, all right, well, you're coming to my office and you're paying me. I've got to give you a solution. And if
Nobody
I
goes to a
tell
doctor. Yeah, but nobody goes to a doctor because they're fat. They go to their doctor because they have, all of a sudden they have symptoms of diabetes.
I think of
Then
both. I would agree with you. The symptoms of being fat,
the symptoms, and then like they're fat,
can't
but
breathe. I don't know why I'm not sleeping well. I can't get my
yeah,
dick up. Like, well, yeah,
yeah.
you're fucking. Like, this bothered me. I saw this one. I saw this one, which really bothered me. I can't emotionally work out the psychological trigger. Um, so I've tried to be more self-aware of things like why they trigger me. Because man, it's fucking interesting, and my head's weird. So, I saw somebody I really respect intellectually, and there's this post of because they're one of the people that think the world's ending because Trump was elected.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I don't even know how I'm going to make it through my day, and I packed my kids' lunch. I'm like, dude, you have like degrees from Ivy League schools, right? Like, where like again, understand the mechanism, isn't applying it. So this guy is like a known psychologist, and he's like, well, and it's like his video telling people like, oh, well, you understand that your feelings are very this, and I want you to know it's valid, and it's really soft. And I'm not like, I tend to be a little more hard, but here's what I went to. I'm like, this dude's got man tits.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got man tits. Like he's got man tits, and he's talking about his feelings. And I'm like, I don't know if this is the best representation of masculinity. And I think this is why everybody on the left is crying their fucking eyes out, is because like, do you know what I want to tell? What I would tell my kid, like, hey, you know, sometimes you make all the right decisions. Sometimes your moral compass is 100% right, and sometimes you do all the right things. Sometimes you lose, and that's just the universe, and it fucking sucks. I'm here with you, bud.
Yeah.
What are we going to do next? Let's go.
Exactly. 99% of the world's going to cry. How are you going to separate yourself? Be that 1%. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and I can't believe the amount of the leftist reaction of like, I'm going to cry my spilt milk, and how am I going to get through the day? And I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, I don't know if I'm going right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, am I getting so old now that I'm gonna like start watching World War II videos? And
I was watching an interview with this guy the other day, and he's like, listen, and I agree with 100% what he's saying. He's like, hey, listen, do I want Trump dating my mom or my sister? No. Is it a Mr. Congeniality? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, contest. No, it's not. Like, you gotta understand, like, and he says the same thing I say, like, we don't have a government, we have a business, and the part of the business is to make money. Do you want if you have to negotiate a contract for your business, or just say you need to sell your house, you want Trump going in there doing the negotiations, or do you want Harris to go in there to do the negotiations? And if you pick Harris, don't ever buy a business. Don't ever be a CEO, and don't ever try to sell your house on your own.
Yeah, but you know,
I thought it was comical. I thought it was pretty
comical. But you know, it's funny. The comedians are the truth sayers today, because the comedy of that is that what you just explained when you said, "Hey, if you pick Kamala, don't do A, B, and C." That makes up the demographic of the people that are screaming and crying. And dude, here's the realization. I think it's our fault. I think it's Gen X's fault. Like Gen X tries to play like we're all tough. Because if you look at the people that are kind of in power, that raise the kids that are crying and acting like bitches, it's like there was a big split in Gen X where there were those of us that are the turnkey, we take care of ourselves, and we grew up a little rough, and we were just like be home before the fucking street lights came on type. But there was a whole movement I felt when I was younger of this, like, well, that's not fair. We should all get trophies, and we should just, you know what I mean? And like we should all get trophies for participating. People are like, I feel, are that left side that are screaming and yelling. And I'm like, dude, this is not like, this is a game, and it's the highest level of business in game. And I want the nastiest son of a bitch doing it. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be that exaggerative, but I agree with you. And I said, I also think I felt like I was being a meathead, but I think there's some truth in this. Like, you can tell who's never played a team sport, and you can tell how important team sports are to people. Like to your social evolution. Like you said, I'm not crazy about the education system, but the fact that my child now has to socially interact with a small segment of what the real world's going to be like, and that's important, right? Is this idea that, like, dude, like, we were all on a team where one of the best players was an asshole, and we didn't want to hang out with him at parties, and we didn't want to like we didn't hang out with him to watch film afterwards, but we played with him on a team. We supported him. We got his back because our goal was to win the game.
Yeah.
Right? So like, what's winning the game as a country? I think it's like I agree with you. Like making more money is security throughout everything. That's just the way the world is. Whether the money's Bitcoin, gold, right? Like it doesn't matter. But the ability to buy and sell and control that is just that's what the power is this year. Because owning technology and people attacking our grid and cyber attacks, that's the next wave, right? So like, how are we going to educate? Blah 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 blah. And yeah, so I looked at it from that standpoint. I'm like, I just like, I feel like, wow, like you really see who somebody is when they lose and the way people are losing and like dragging their feet through this. And I'm like, anyway, I kind of want to be more positive, being like, dude, there's a lot of great wins. Like if nothing else, I'm not even talking about the fact that I think the prime minister of Israel is like, sends this whole congratulations to Trump and it's great. I'm looking forward to ending it. Because Trump basically is like, I want everything shut the fuck down by the time I get in office. And dude, I swear to God, he's like, I want the Ukraine done and I want Gaza done. So like the lead prime minister of Israel, he literally came out and said, yeah, we got a phone call from Trump saying I want this over by the time I get into office. And the prime minister's like, we're with you, let's do it.
Yeah.
And Hamas issues a statement that they're willing to end it before they want to end it before Trump gets in office. Because whether you like him or not, the most terrorizing organization in the world is now fucking terrorized.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's more to your point. Like, dude, the guy was just elected and you have the two biggest wars. Putin came out and said, Donald Trump made a statement that he wants to end the conflict, the war in Ukraine. I'm very interested. I believe he believes he knows how to do it. I'm interested to hear what he has to say. Yeah. Dude, that's Russia being like, okay, I'll listen to you, Trump. Like I'm like, dude, like I think that's the guy who should be playing point guard for us. I don't know. I mean, like, listen, he's kind of a dick, and he grabs women by the pussy. Don't let your sister near him. Yeah. Don't let him near the keg. Like we've all got that buddy. But
you've heard about those uncles, you know.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah. But he fucking brings the best gifts for Christmas, so you gotta like, right? Yeah. But anyway, man, I fucking appreciate all your time today.
Fun.
When you get done doing that water structuring, I wish there's a way we could like test it. Do you know what I mean? Like we could do it online. We could do it online. Like we could do it. Anyway, let's think about that. I don't want to keep you too much time, but it's fucking always love going down the rabbit holes with you.
Yeah,
those of you, anybody who's lasted this long, more than black and white podcast, Brian and Paul do this at this depth level all the time. You got a really awesome author coming on soon. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Plug. When's that? That's soon, right?
Neil Donald Walsh is coming on this Tuesday. It'll probably be aired in about a month from now. Conversations with God and God Talks. That's his two biggest books. So looking forward to interviewing him and see what happens, man.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to. Wish you all the success, brother. Do me a favor, as you taught me. Hang on, because I always got the shitty video quality. But hang on when I disconnect this. All right, I'm going to play the little clip in the music. Chill out for a second and. All right, everyone. We're out.
Give
me 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and